says it started. There we are. We are live. I didn't hear the bleep again, Kathleen. Ivana Taylor here, and I want to welcome you guys to a DIY Marketers Masterclass. And as if you have not noticed, everyone is talking about getting organized and planning. It's the mad dash for planning for the new year. Actually, over on DIY Marketers, I just wrote a post about it where there are tons and tons of tips from lots of experts. But I brought one additional expert with me here today, and it's Kathleen Day. She is organizational guru goddess, and she's here. She told me about a specific talk that she does called Life is Like IKEA, Assembly Required. So Kathleen, tell us a little bit about yourself, and what do you mean that life is like IKEA?
Well, hi Ivana, and hi everybody who's out there today. Thanks so much for being here. It's a concept that struck me, I think sometime last winter, as I've been working with private clients and organizations for over 20 years, and I finally woke up and started to see this trend that there's actually a system, there's a way that people who are consistently and successfully organized have done that background work, and they're living a life that they've designed, built, manage, maintain, and so it really is required. It's not going to happen on its own, and it's not going to happen if you're kind of slapdash and all that. So I'm pretty sure it's a universal concept. There's probably not anybody out there who hasn't built one of those shelves or desks or chairs, or at least seen it done.
I know. Have you seen that Max Koch YouTube video that I referenced? It's not for the under 18.
Yes, I didn't look at it, but I'm going to make a note of it because
you've got to make a note of it. If you guys have not seen this, it's absolutely hysterical. The guy's name is Max Koch, and it's K-O-C-H. And I think you have to search on Max Koch assembles a dresser. And please do not watch this with any kids in the vicinity, because it is loaded with inappropriate language that will have you laughing your hiney off, because we all know what it's like to try to assemble an IKEA piece of furniture. And did you know something, Kathleen? I don't know if I told you. I think I might have told you this. Maybe I didn't. I read that IKEA actually does that on purpose because you form an attachment to something that you've built and put together.
Yes, and I would love for people who design their life and make these plans and what they're trying to accomplish in 2015. I would love if everyone really developed the kind of attachment to that would have them complete the job.
Well, what is it that happens, Kathleen? I mean, here we are in this phase, and it occurs to me that as the new year approaches, it feels like tabula rasa, clean slate. It's like all these possibilities, all these opportunities are open for us, and we sit down and we make plans and so on and so forth, and yet, you say that we build our lives by design. I happen to agree with you. But what about the folks that say, life just happens to me. I put out this plan and stuff gets in the way?
Well, that kind of leapfrogs into something I want to talk about in a few minutes.
Okay, so take us there.
Yeah.
Take us wherever. Tell us about yourself. That's where we started, and I totally got sidetracked. Sorry.
Okay, well, I am the founder and chief organization officer of LifeSmith University. I've been working with, really, my career, I didn't realize it at the time, but it began somewhere around the first or second grade. I learned these two amazing, fascinating, at least to a nerd geek like me, skills of writing and telling time. And one of the first things I started doing was creating schedules for my parents who were entrepreneurs, and for household management and child care, and I included, of course, the chores I like to do and daddy time and things like that. And even though I'm sure they really didn't follow along or play along with me, it's been looking at how to create order out of chaos, how to really define the big picture and set up a workable process is something I've been doing my entire adult life. And what I've really dedicated myself to is discovering, you could say I'm one of those people who was born with it, which is a mistake, a mindset mistake that a lot of people make, thinking you have it or you don't, it's a talent. But I've dedicated myself to figuring out what's the skill set that includes not only the types of actions that people take or the systems and structures that they have, but also what's the logic. Because there is a way to approach things that you don't have to be a master, you don't have to turn into Martha Stewart or Peter Walsh, but you can really restore some sanity to life, at least, by making a few changes. And the thing that I say about if your life is chaotic and hectic, that's like the default design, where you're just going with the flow. I'm talking about a more constructive design. My 3 steps. You got to inventory the parts. So even, you and I were talking the other day about business planning for 2015. Where does it start? It starts with listing the possibilities, seeing what the components are and the moving parts. And then that's what you got to do when you open that box from IKEA. You got to make sure that you've got the 23 screws and they're the right size, and you know which one is A, B, and C, so that you can eventually read the instructions, the second step, which is often overlooked. Everybody's favorite to skip. But I work with people actually in how to help you to write some of the instructions. There's some things we're going to talk about today that are really hardwired and non-negotiable, but then there's pockets and windows and ways in which you have everything to say about how your life goes. And then, that final piece is really about, the first 2 pieces are really about hitting the pause button, being thoughtful. One of my favorite quotes that I use in my programs is, think like a person of action, act like a person of thought. Instead of, as my mother's analogy was, like a fly that just got swatted and you're kind of spinning around. People can be in control. So anyway, that was a lot more about me than what you asked for. But
no, I think that's really important. And as I was listening to you, and all you guys, that are here, I see Albert, who says he's here. Let me just acknowledge some of the folks that are here. There's Albert. He loves to come to our stuff. I'm really glad he's here. And my friend James from Question Pro. I'm really glad that he's here. And Karen is here. Hi, Karen. Karen. And Jam is here. He likes to jam with us from time to time. And I'm sure there might be some other folks. I hope I haven't missed you, but I want to make sure I acknowledge everyone who's here. And you said something very early on, and that was you have to inventory the parts. And I think you're right. We not only skip the instruction part, we skip the inventory parts. Talk a little bit about maybe some of the things that might be in your inventory of parts, because I do it wrong, clearly. I have my little, let's say, calendar, and I'm listing my ideas, but I have a feeling there's got to be a better way of doing this. Talk a little bit about how we might start the inventory of parts.
Well, I like to start with the umbrellas, the broad umbrellas, and it's kind of a la Stephen Covey, roles and goals, if you're familiar with 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that you've got certain, well, let me say it this way. Many people, when they're putting together a to-do list, for example, you start out with the best of intentions. You'd like to start listing things that are the most important in chronological order, but for many, many people, you get down to item 4 or 5, and everything that's undone starts to rush in, and you end up with these lists that are kind of sideways up and down the paper, or a mishmash of all the different realms of activity. So my pause button and strategy begins, and it's what I use with all my private clients in the programs, is to start with what I call domains for action. Well-being, household, community, leisure, finance, and then your work or business. So there's 6 universal categories, and if you can inventory what's undone, a recent survey that I did, 90% of people said that the top 3 causes, that they felt the top 3 causes of overwhelm in their life were everything, all the undone little pieces.
Yes.
Which is why those, so that's one, the undone, the clutter, and then really not being able to have or maintain good habits. So the system and structure of using these domains for action, those 6, is you can start to identify, it consolidates, compartmentalizes, allows you to focus, like back into focus on that particular category of activities. What's undone? What's unstarted? What's your hopes and dreams? And it's just an inventory.
Got it. So those 6 categories really help, because it dawns on me that if I am to just start listing things willy-nilly, it might be really heavy in an area that just seems to be important to me at the time.
Yeah.
But the fact that you have these realms, whether it's like, health and wellness, your work life, family life, financial life, spiritual life, or education life, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely makes sense. So are you advocating then you sit with one item, like let's say health and wellness?
I think given this time of year, taking an inventory would be a really good idea for everyone. And I actually do have a tool available that defines, so that those are the umbrellas, so well-being, let's say. But the drill down, the major subsets, the actual action categories for those are medical, exercise, nutrition. For some people, spirituality falls under that domain of well-being. For some people, it's its own domain. It's a very big part of life. But for some people, the spirituality, the grounding, the connectedness is just a major subset under well-being. And I also include presentation in well-being.
What do you mean by that?
Well, presentation, how you present yourself in the world, your grooming, your appointments, your accessories. First of all, because it needs to be accounted for, and I think that your presentation is an expression of your well-being.
I completely agree. And you can actually, at least I can, change how I feel simply by changing what I wear, or maybe even the kinds of shoes I have on that day. I've heard that shoes are actually a very, very big motivator for women and highly impact how they feel on any given day.
Interesting.
Okay, so let's see. So we talked about this inventory and then the domains, right?
Right. Using the domains to, and again, I've got a tool that if we could give people the website address, and they can actually download a copy of my write-up specifically about the domains.
After the hangout or whenever, just throw the link in there into the comment section on the main page, and people can go down there and get whatever information they need. So, so we talked about inventorying. We talked about, you said we don't read the instructions, right? What's that all about? What instructions? Nobody gives you instructions for life.
Well, oh, and by the way, let me just say one other thing about domains for action. If you can really embrace those particular categories, the professional organizer perspective, the thing that can, if you take nothing else away from today, that can be a real game changer, keep like items together. You don't have to be a master filer. You don't have to have an elaborate system, but keep your financial stuff together. If you're using the haystack method, I don't know where to put this.
Oh, needle in the haystack?
The haystack method. Oh, I'm going to need this. What should I do with it? Let me put it here for now. Right? Everybody's got those stacks that are unfortunately a mix of all the domains, and I recommend at least have a home that is community, leisure. Well, at least separate them, the stacks. It will be a game changer. It's a simple enough thing to do. Let's see. Here, the thing about instructions is people are in such a state of overwhelm. There's a mood, there's a culture today that is no time. Like an example I like to use is you're driving down the street and the person in front of you has the audacity to be going the speed limit or less. You get up to the intersection, they drive through the amber, and there you are stuck at the red light. Most people don't say, gee, there goes 15 to 30 seconds of my life. No, it's a very big deal. And that's the culture that we're in. We've got no time, or at least we think that we don't. And the truth is, organized people don't manage time. They manage tasks. They manage what they put into a constrained, like it or not, limited frame of time. It's all we got. It's all anybody gets.
Well, that's one of the things I really loved, and this is the part of our program when I want to show you guys this. Can I bring up the chart, my favorite chart, the one about the time?
Yep. Well, let me just say one other thing about time. It's my philosophy, I guess, or my observation that the way people get into trouble with what we're about to look at is it's like a love story, right? It's where people, you kind of are aware that there's this time thing and there's this schedule thing, and but I want to do that. I'm interested in that. And it's like flirting from across the room. I could do that. I can make the time. I've got the time. And then, but it's really fantasy, wild speculation. There's no reality there. And then, but the disappointment is genuine when it doesn't work out, when you really can't do it, or you can't do it well enough, or you're dragging it around with you forever like a regret for a long time, or worst thing possible, it stays on the to-do list for later.
The haystack, you mean?
The things that you don't get around to doing.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think it's the best laid plans, which is why I asked the trick question in the event room of how many hours do we have in the day. Now, Kathleen has this great presentation, and I'm not going to show you all of it, but I want to show you this one piece, and I don't know why. Oh, because I have to open it. Oh. Come on. Little screen share. Here you are. Okay. I'm going to share this little piece with you guys. If I can. Oh, there it is. This is the chart I want to share. Am I supposed to click something? There it is. Can you see it?
Yeah, you just have to double click on that slide 12.
Oh, I see. So you're not. I'm looking at it. I need to make it bigger here, so everyone can see it. Let me make it bigger for you guys. Woo!
Yeah.
I think that's about the only way I can show it for you guys. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is make sure that you guys can see it, just that. All right, so tell us what this is, this non-negotiable base. This was profound to me.
Yeah. It's an exercise that I do with clients to take the relationship to time to the next level. And if you look at this list of non-negotiable tasks on the left, sleeping, I mean, they're like, I've just delineated truly non-negotiables. You can't not sleep.
I'm not exercising. I've definitely negotiated that.
Well, I'll say a little something about that. Eating and related activities. What do I mean by related activities? Well, as far as I know, nobody here lives on the Star Trek Enterprise and can go to the replicator and say, computer, steak and potatoes, please. No, we have to think about it, shop for it, prepare it, eat it, clean up after it. So it's just, it's something that takes a significant amount of time. Exercise. For some people, it's non-negotiable. For way too many, it's not, and that's typically because it doesn't have an immediate consequence. but it is like paint on a barn. It is degrading, chipping, fading, peeling, and soon it will be revealed. those consequences are on the way.
Gotcha.
Personal care. What's your grooming routine in the morning? What does it take to get out and be ready for the fans? Work plus commute. Commute is often one of those little things that people don't factor into how much time stuff takes, amazingly enough. Managing your money. I've got checks. I must have money. Doesn't really fly. You've got to be aware and responsible for your money. Family relationships. Let me say this about it. For the purpose of this exercise, I really limit it to dependent care. So this is not about, it's really important to me to go to the movies with my son on Friday night, that kind of thing. No, this is if you have young children or elderly parents or that kind of a scenario, that's non-negotiable. And just, I'm not trying to eliminate anything or have things not be important, but for this as a non-negotiable, it's dependent care. Basic household maintenance, so your basic household hygiene, personal administration, and organization. And that's really what I now call the pause button. It's the breakfast of champions, having a regular routine each week to hit the pause button, look at your open items, look at your skip, complete your previous week, get those open items into the next week thoughtfully, thinking like a person of action, acting like a person of thought, and understanding that you cannot cram everything into one day, week, etc. It's one of those mindsets that actually gets you in more trouble than it is helpful. And pets, we like to think of them as family members, but I call them household members, so they are also dependents. And if you look at the numbers that I've put here, you don't have to go crazy with this math. 8 hours a night for sleeping. I came up with 15 hours a week. It's 15 minutes for breakfast, 30 minutes for lunch, an hour for dinner, 3 hours miscellaneous for prep, shopping, etc. Exercise 30 minutes 4 times a week. Half an hour a day to get ready. Typical 40-hour work week plus commutes.
Got it.
Like that. So,
what is this leftover column that you got?
Well, look, there's now from 168 hours in a week, we're down to 32. And that's about average. So this is, I kind of plugged in a little bit of autobiographical numbers here and whatever, but the average is about 30 hours.
Oh, you mean it's like leftover to spend as you like?
Of that 168 hours, there's an average of 30 hours left over. And in working with people over the years, I've had the numbers range from 3 hours to 60 hours.
Sure.
And the people with 60 hours weren't necessarily thinking, gee, I do have enough time. And the other thing I just want to add about, I don't include leisure in this, but I really do think it's also important, but it's kind of a tier 2. Relaxation, decompress, personal enrichment, that's very important, I think. But here's what this, if you do this math for yourself, and again, don't agonize, just really look at averages. It gives you a reality check for available time. And if that number is small, wow, you could say, I really got to leverage the time I do have. Or you can use it as a reality check to help you contain commitments. If I've got, and that list generally does cover about 80% of what needs to happen anyway, but you've got 20% of your life that you have a say in. And I know that there might be some realms where that gets encroached on a little bit, but I encourage people to think about that magic number as your negotiable choice time.
Got it.
And hit those non-negotiables, edge out the non-essentials. Like that's what the organized people are doing. The cool kids down the block who have a clean house, good finances, full-time jobs, contribute to the community. That's all they're doing.
How they have time to do all these things, and I guess what you can say is that I found for myself, I was practicing the Franklin Covey, and I still do the routine of Franklin Covey of the morning review. Mm-hmm. What are my, what is it that has to get done, or bad things will happen, right? Those are my A. What has to get done today? What would be nice? And then I also love the grid. That's the importance, urgency grid.
Yes. Yep.
Those are little things. Those are little things that I use to get myself focused. And that's what I got from Franklin Covey. And the David Allen thing about, it just gives you control over what's happening. And I guess I found, and this is what you're talking about, that when you have a sense of control or creating your life, designing your life, you're going to be happier and you're going to get more done and be more successful.
Yeah, and I think that what's important is when people take this inventory and take stock and really look at everything that's undone, one of two things is going to happen, and often what happens is people get overwhelmed just by the sheer volume, but that's almost a buffer between really exploring what's on that undone list, on that inventory list. In my programs, I take people through pretty powerful exercise to create priorities and even dismiss some things. Some people have a collection of to-do lists.
Oh, yes.
And they're never going to get to them. And so I kind of work with people to loosen up the grip of the overwhelm of it all, like get people out of the undertow of 21st century, because while they've got to-do lists that are choking them, they're still adding more stuff.
So is there an element of that exercise that you can share with us for just a few minutes, maybe some abbreviated portion, or at least just the instructions maybe or something?
Well, I think that if you take a thorough inventory in the 6 domains, one of the things to do is look at why it's on the list. Are you the same? It's like an aging report, yes? When some of these things are old enough that they're obsolete, they are really more trouble than they're worth. You are not the same person who made the commitment to them. So it's really taking an honest, forthright look at what you can eliminate. What can you negotiate?
Oh, nice, right? What can you eliminate? What can you negotiate?
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, because there's two kinds of issues in the habit world. One issue is very straightforward. It's like, it only hurts when I do this. Well, it's one of those things. Stop doing that. Instead of putting the piece of clothing down, hang it up. There's little action tweaks that you can do that prevent the pile-up from happening to begin with. But then there's this whole, and that's pretty straightforward. But then there's this whole other category of communication. I have a business client who constantly said, I can't schedule this, I can't schedule that, because he had 2 very large clients. And whenever a job was rolling out, he knew that there would be some big meetings that would happen, but he was always saying, I can't schedule anything, I can't schedule anything, they might need to meet. Little fine-tune that we did, I said, how about you offer them, I can meet with you Thursday or Friday. Doesn't guarantee, but it's a communication issue, where he was just letting them manage the whole thing, and he could have been more proactive.
Oh,
yeah.
You bring to mind something that you and I talk a lot about, and that is workability, right? What works in your life? What do you need to be successful? And I think what I'm taking away, and you can correct me here if I'm off, but what I'm taking away is that doing this inventory, understanding how much time you really have right? That's sort of the workability work. It's like, what is it that works for me before I let other things.
Right. Yes, and let's see what else I wanted to say about that. So there's a reality check about what's on the inventory. Then there's really creating a realistic relationship to time, taking it to the next level, which will hopefully, it can have the effect of making people think it's, it really is, there really is no time. But I'm hoping that the alternate choice will be made that, oh, I have to be more, my time needs to be more sacred. I need to be more thoughtful about what I'm including in my life and understand that there are 168 hours in a week. Because here's the biggest time waster of all. A typical way that people deal with the overwhelm and the pileup, when they just can't handle it anymore, stop the world, drag out the heavy equipment, power through the rubble, clean the desk, organize the closets, all that. And, and it creates that clean slate. And everybody's had that experience. You have this, it's pristine. Oh, I can actually think now. Oh, that's the next thing to do. So there's clarity and purpose, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful feeling. The problem with that strategy, the flaw is, what you haven't really learned and conditioned and trained your brain to do is develop those habits that prevent the pileup from happening.
Well, you said you had something to say about habits, and that was a really critical component of this. So maybe this is the time to sort of expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, the thing about habits is we've got a mechanism in place, and habits are not just what you do, but also what you don't do. It's a habitual response to a given cue. Pile of laundry, that's your cue. It's either going to be, let's say it's clean laundry. It's either going to be fold it, put it away right now, and then the reward is it's done. And you don't have to iron something tomorrow. Or the other possible reward is, oh, I didn't do it. I didn't have to do it. It's not a big deal. I'll iron in the morning, but now I can go have a taco and watch a movie. So the real magic in altering habits is in that reward part. Getting yourself connected to the reward, because it's what people complain and moan about is all the stuff that's undone. And the only solution is to do it gradually.
What?
Yeah, but you know what? There's resistance. So let's say there's resistance. And so
I don't want to, right?
Yeah, I don't want to. Why bother? There's a whole mindset that I call the autopilot, and it's got very few variations. But it's either going to go for the black hole of later, or the bully of 21st century, which is there's no time. But it's just not true. I mean, let's rewind back to that. If there's 30 hours in a week, that's a huge amount of time. Do you know what you can get done if you really selected your priorities? And now a next step that I do in the programs is actually lay out. So you take the whatever you plug in for the non-negotiable numbers, and then you set up a grid. I use an Excel spreadsheet, and you actually plug in when those activities occur. So you've got what there is to do, the non-negotiables. You plug it into when it typically happens, and what gets revealed is the white space. And all those pockets and windows, we're pretty darn reliable. We're starting to plug in some of those overdue things and clearing of the clutter. But establishing routines is one of the most important things that you can do. And actually, in my program, what I just referenced, I call the meta schedule. That's where people can assemble their life. You take that model of 168 hours, and when I work with people, it's really a combination, and it's a very powerful coaching conversation. What's hardwired? What, like if you have a 9-to-5 job, boom. But what's ideal? Are you getting enough sleep? Do you want to eat better? So that's going to include maybe doing some meal planning. And if you want to eliminate forgetting, resistance, and drama, create a routine. Give yourself the chance to get over that hump and get connected to the new reward.
And what I was going to say, what's the new reward? I know what it is for me. I'm kind of curious as to maybe what the new reward could be for other people.
It's as unique as each person.
How do you get in touch? How do you actually even find it? Let's say if you are in chaos all the time. I mean, I happen to know, because it's like the Zen thing. I've had the experience of, I know that when I perceive my life as being in control, that is that things are running on the schedule and there is time for everything and so on and so forth. I find that the thing that matters most to me, which is, 1, being present, 2, being creative, coming up with ideas, unique ideas, things like that. When I have structure and when there is control, my reward is that I come up with new ideas, and it's really, really awesome. And I love that feeling, so I always strive for that. So, like, even as we speak, I'm front-loading for Christmas so that there are anything that has a deadline is taken care of.
Yeah.
Right? So what are some other rewards that people, that, maybe some of your clients have had as a result?
Well, let's look at it from house. Let's look at it from domains, because I think that there's some obvious ones that we can address. So, well-being, exercise, drag, man, bummer, like, get up early, it's cold outside, or by, warming up, and you're going to be a little bit achy, and do I eat before or after, like sorting all that out. Justifying it, trying to do it all by yourself, just chronically avoiding it. We really are either chronically overbooking or chronically avoiding, and we're avoiding often the non-negotiables. So then, if you set up a structure that's your ideal life, which is really, really what I work with people on doing, what's your ideal life? Every night when people drift off to sleep, they're thinking, I can't believe I didn't do that again. Or and we're so used to living with the shower of self recrimination, we just call it life, and it becomes under the radar. What's wrong with me? I'm lazy. I'm late. It just goes on and on. There's like 5,000 negative thoughts we have a day, believe it or not, and a lot of it has got to do with what's in our line of sight, the undone, the clutter, and what's banging around our heads like a pinball machine. The price we're paying for that already. I can't remember the woman I'm about to quote, but she said, look, you're either going to do the thing that's really important, or you're going to deal with the anxiety of not having it done. And we're, as a culture, way too used to living with the anxiety of it not being done, when the simpler, straightforward solution is to do it. So let's talk about rewards.
Yes.
Setting up the structure, letting yourself get in the groove, spending a week or 2 with little, like you could do a Kaizen, just small, gradual steps, continuous improvement. Reward, increased energy, better skin tone, better sleep, weight loss, seeing the muscles a little bit. Those are the kinds of rewards that you've got to, they're not necessarily overnight.
And you said something really important there. You said give yourself time. And I think so many of us make the mistake of starting a routine, not fulfilling on the routine, and then beating ourselves up about it and then not doing it at all. Whereas if you give yourself the space, like it's all part of the process.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because there's a couple other autopilot responses that we have that are completely under the radar but actually make our decisions for us. It's like all or nothing. I can't do everything, so I won't do anything. That's the syndrome. I'm not going to be muscle bound by February, so why bother? And then there is, I can't believe I'm going mental blank here. I'm like,
oh, I know you're having that time.
I am.
So
anyway, it's like as soon as you go for perfect, the problem with perfect is any little chip or ding or missed appointment or thing that you don't do just derails the whole thing. And rather experiment and design your ideal life, assemble that beautiful week, and see, and then conduct an experiment, observe, see what happens, but at least give yourself a chance to experience the reward on the other side.
Oh, that's such a great point. I hope everyone just got what she said, because I think it's really huge. It's, you and I talk a lot about who you're being in the moment, and if you just, instead of taking this and making it so significant, you can actually play a game with it. You could be a scientist, you could experiment with it, and by being in that kind of a mindset, it's allowing for mistakes, and mistakes are okay, whereas that would overcome this thing of, oh, I'm not going to be muscle bound by February, so why bother?
Yes.
Yep. I'm not going to lose that 10, 15 pounds by the conference in 3 weeks, so why bother?
Right. Oh, I look okay anyway, who cares? So you start to settle for things. And what's great about creating that meta schedule and having that design and that kind of set of instructions that you wrote is when you're nose to the grindstone and you're just going through the week and it's the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, a few things happen. One is you're busy, but you don't really have a sense of accomplishment. And B, you're not seeing the big picture.
Awesome. So I've actually put a shot of the slide up that I don't know if you guys can see it, but there is the meta schedule, right?
Yep.
So you can see, what is this stuff? This is work that's yellow in the middle?
Yes, that's an actual first pass with a real client who's an executive director at a not-for-profit, and so you could see the purple is well-being, the yellow is work, the green is finance, the pink is her children, the blue is spirituality, and the red is household. So it includes the non-negotiable base. And you see the white space.
Yeah.
The pockets and windows in which she can catch up with overdue items. And this is the other thing I wanted to say about, I have found, I used to really think that that people could be motivated and it was a mindset thing, and you really could start to chip away at what there was to do and live your ideal life. But the reality is that so many people are behind schedule with the overdue and the clutter. I've designed a whole new program, it's actually called Clutter to Clean Slate, that focuses on getting people into action, like taking that inventory, going through the exercise of creating priorities, because what stops people most is they don't know where to put it. They don't know where to start because it's just such a big pile. And you've really got to, you can spend a couple months or even 90 days catching up, using those pockets and windows of the white space. Then you get closer and closer and closer to being able to now do could be leisure, could be that contribution you want to make in the world, it could be that spending more time with your children or family, you know, the things that really are important to you, hiring a personal trainer so that you have a committed buddy and you can't be slippery about it. So, but this is the blueprint. This is where you start.
I absolutely love that calendar, and I think that over the weekend I'm going to make one for myself. I'm making all kinds of Excel calendars, and you know, I use all kinds of tools, but I think what I'm going to do for myself is I'm going to make that in the Excel spreadsheet, and then I'm going to convert it into my Google calendar. One thing I've already taken the step on is I've selected 2 days out of the week where no one can schedule appointments with me. I can put things in there, but other people cannot infringe on those days, which has been really empowering. It makes me feel so good to know that I have this buffer of time where things can get done.
Yeah, yeah. It's so great, and I call that soft boundaries. You know, it's something that a lot of business owners are very reluctant to do because you've got to serve the client, must make more money, you know, do all that stuff, but you don't have to. You can condition your environment and the people around you to really respond to and respect that you've got a business to not only run and deliver your work product, but to grow and nurture and be creative with and all that. And you'd be amazed how people would start to fall into compliance with what is ideal for you.
Exactly. I think that that's wonderful. So, okay, we're at the 45-minute mark. What parting thoughts do you have for folks as they do their planning? We've talked about inventory. We've talked about domains, which is domains, and then inventory. Talked about converting those into the non-negotiables, into the calendar. Boy, that's a lot. Anything else that's left over to assemble your life, like a piece of IKEA, without swearing?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want it to look like the picture on the box, whatever your vision is for your ideal life, doing this groundwork, and it's, in a sense, putting on the blinders, understanding that it can't all happen overnight, and pacing yourself over time. Getting yourself in a condition where you are caught up. And I know it sounds simplistic, but if you look at your available time, it can be done. I hope it's an empowering way for you to say, because it's not a permanent lifestyle change. Let's say you block off 90 days and say, in this 90 days, I'm going to use 15 of these 30 hours to really work on these projects and clear the clutter, maybe clear the attic, whatever it is, whatever's a drama point for you. And my definition of drama is not the meltdown or making a scene. My definition of drama is that negative self-assessment that we all walk around with. The shame, the guilt, the regret, all that, it's completely unnecessary. You can, like, draw a line in the sand, say, here's where I begin the process, learn how to, and I don't quite think I finished with the meta schedule, that when you can look at it from that higher level and see how things are connected and that things are accounted for, instead of saying, oh, I've got to do the laundry. It's no, I do the laundry on Saturdays. So done. You know, it's peace of mind. And my motto really is, it's not about perfect, it is about peaceful. So,
I love that. I love that. And I cannot think of any better way to wind out. And I don't know about all of you guys. I don't know if this is a really busy time of year for you, or if this is the time where you can kind of settle in, hibernate, get inside yourself, and get some of this work done so that you can give yourself that space. I am all about it. Kathleen, thank you so much. I know all our audience thanks you. Don't forget, where can people go to get more information? Maybe you want to insert some of those links to some of the downloads or things that you have.
Okay, can I do that from here?
You can, well, not from this screen, but in that event page, on the event page, you can insert in the comments, you can insert links and any other information for people. Okay?
Great, I will do that. Yep, I have both a live in New York City and an online version of Clutter to Clean Slate coming up in January to celebrate this remarkable occasion of New Year's resolutions.
I absolutely love it, Kathleen. Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here. And next time we have a master class, stay tuned and join us. And now you'll know how they do that. Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you, Ivana. Great to spend this time with you in the community.